Keeper of the Lost Cities, Everblaze, Book 3, by Shannon Messenger. Preface. The mirror slipped from Sophie's hands, landing on the petal-covered carpet with the softest thud. Both sides of the glass survived the crash without cracking, but inside, Sophie shattered. She kept a smile plastered across her lips as she listened to the rest of the story, searching for the tiniest detail or clue that Chapter 1. "What are you waiting for?" Keith shouted over the howling wind and the roaring sea. "Don't tell me the great Sophie Foster is afraid." "I'm just trying to concentrate," she shouted back, wishing her voice didn't sound so shaky. Not that she could fool him. As an empath, Keith could feel the terror coursing through her veins like a herd of stampeding mastodons. All she could do was tug out an itchy eyelash, a nervous habit, and try not to think about how very far down the ocean was. "You should be afraid," Sandor told her in his strange, squeaky voice. He placed a grey goblin-y hand on Sophie's shoulder and pulled her back from the edge of the cliff. "There has to be a safer way to teleport." "There isn't." Most of the time, Sophie was grateful to have the constant protection of her burly bodyguard, especially since her kidnappers had proven they could find her any time, anywhere. But sometimes she had to take risks. She shrugged off Sandor's hand, which took quite a lot of effort, considering he was 7 feet tall, with biceps like giant boulders, and inched forward, reminding herself that she liked teleporting better than light leaping, despite the nexuses she had clamped on each wrist, or the force fields they created to hold her body together during a leap. She'd been faded too many times to truly feel safe. Still, she wished free-falling wasn't an essential part of teleporting. Want me to push you? Keith offered, laughing as Sophie jerked away from him. "Come on, it will be fun. For me, at least." Dex snorted behind them. "And he gets to go with you today." More like she gets to go with me," Keith countered, flashing his trademark smirk. "Go on, tell Dex who the council contacted first." "Only because your dad's in charge of arranging visits to the sanctuary now," she reminded him. Firsties are still firsties. Just admit it, Foster. You need me." Sophie wished he could argue, but unfortunately the council did want Keith to go with her. Apparently, Sylvanie was having some sort of trouble at her new home in the Elves' Special Animal Preserve, and since Sophie and Keith each had a connection with the precious Alicorn, the council had asked both of them to head to the sanctuary immediately. The councillors had to be pretty concerned if they were willing to rely on Keith. "I'm sorry, Dex," Sophie said, trying not to worry. "You know I'd bring you if I could." Dex smiled, but not enough to show his dimples as he went back to playing with the lock she'd asked him to open. Sophie hadn't wanted to tell him she was going with Keith, afraid it would make Dex feel left out again, but with Grady off on a classified assignment and Adeline helping rescue a Verminon, a Rottweiler-sized purple hamster-skew creature before humans found it, Sophie needed a technopath to get past the cliffside gates. "If it makes you feel better, Sandor's not allowed to come either," she added, regretting the words as Sandor reeled on them. "Yes, and it's completely absurd. I'm supposed to be protecting you, not banned from entering because of arbitrary new rules." "Hey, even my dad's not allowed to go with us. But don't worry," Keith draped an arm across Sophie's shoulder. "I'll take care of her for you." Sophie wasn't sure who groaned louder, her or Dex. Sandor grabbed Keith's shoulders, lifting him off the ground. "If I find even one scratch on her—" "Whoa, easy there, Gigantor," Keith said, kicking the air, trying to squirm free. "I'm not going to let anything happen to her. But let's not forget that this is Sophie we're talking about. Odds are, we're going to need an elven visit." Even Dex had to laugh at that one. Sophie glared at all of them. It wasn't her fault. She'd said a record number of visits to the healing center at school, plus a ton of additional house calls from Elvin. She didn't choose to have a deadly allergy or genetically enhanced ability she couldn't always control, and she definitely didn't ask to have a group of rebels trying to kill her, which was probably why she should listen to Sandor and not leave his side. "We'll be fine," she promised, tucking her blonde hair behind her ears and trying to sound more confident than she felt. "I can teleport us directly inside the sanctuary, and the security's been tripled since Sylvie moved in. And you will come straight home afterward," Sandor added, waiting for Keith to nod before setting him down. "I want you back here in an hour." "Oh, come on," Keith whined as he adjusted his dark blue cape. "We haven't seen Sylvie in 2 weeks." Sophie smiled. She never would have guessed that Keith could get so attached to a sparkly winged horse, but he seemed to miss Sylvie as much as she did. Maybe more, since he didn't get stuck with a head full of exuberant Alicon transmissions every time he saw her. Sylvie was the only creature that Sophie's unique telepathy couldn't block, probably because the Black Swan had modeled Sophie's genetics of an Alicon's DNA when they created her, a fact she was less than thrilled about. Her friends had assured her they didn't think it was weird, but she still felt like the horse girl. "You know how panicky Sylvie can be," she reminded Sandor, trying to stay focused on the bigger problem. "It's going to take a few hours to calm her down." Sandor grumbled under his breath. "Fine, you have until sunset, but if you're late, I'm holding you responsible, Mr. Sensen, and trust me when I say you do not want that to happen." "Fear the wrath of Gigantor." "Got it." Keith dragged Sophie back to the edge. "Let's do this." "I guess I'll see you at school on Monday," Dex mumbled, staring at the ground as he dug out his home crystal. "I reset the mechanism to make the lock open with your DNA, so you probably won't need me anymore." "I'll always need you, Dex," Sophie told him, blushing as she quickly added, "You're my best friend." "And dude, I'm telling you," Keith jumped in, "when you're finally ready to go public with your ability, which you seriously need to get cracking on, by the way, we have to team up. We could break into Dame Alina's office and fill it with dinosaur poop or sparkly Alicon poop, or we could—" "And this is who we are entrusting your safety to?" Sandor interrupted, looking like he wanted to strangle Keith again. "I can take care of myself," Sophie reminded him, tapping her forehead. "Inflictor, remember?" She might have mixed feelings about her rare ability to inflict pain on people, but it did come in handy if the rebels attacked. "So we ready?" Keith asked, swooping his arm to mime them diving off the edge. Sophie's mouth went dry. "You got this, Foster. Stop doubting yourself." She nodded, trying not to look down as she asked, "Do you remember how teleporting works?" "Well, last time we were kind of falling to our death and stuff, so it's a little blurry, but I'm pretty sure I just cling to you and scream like a banshee while you tear a crack into the universe, right?" "Something like that." Go on 3. Sandor repeated his objections as they both bent their knees. 1, Sophie counted, squeezing Keith's hand so hard her knuckles cracked. 2. She gave herself just slightly longer than a second before she closed her eyes and whispered the final command. 3. The words were still on her lips as they both launched off the cliff. Keith whooped and hollered and flayed, but Sophie stayed quiet, trying to tune out everything except the warmth building in her mind. Something clicked inside her head, and she channeled the burning mental energy out into the sky. Thunder clapped as a crack formed in the air beneath them, and they dropped straight into the darkness. Time and space didn't exist in the void. There was no up or down, no right or left, just the pull of the force and the warmth of Keith's hand. But Sophie knew that all she had to do was think about where she wanted to go, and they'd be free. Sanctuary, she thought, picturing the lush meadows and sprawling forests she'd seen in pictures. Photographic memory could recall every vivid detail, right down to the tiny drops of mist that coated every petal and leaf, sparkling like glitter in the sun. "You with me, Foster?" Keith called when no exit appeared. "I think so." She squeezed her eyes tighter, picturing the hollowed-out mountains that shielded the sanctuary from the rest of the world, and the animals in every shape and color wandering through the pastures. She even tried imagining herself standing with Keith in a meadow, watching Sylvie soar above them with gleaming silver wings. But when she opened her eyes, all she saw was black, thick and suffocating and inescapable. Panic closed off her chest, and Sophie gasped for breath, fighting to concentrate on the sanctuary with the full power of her mind. A migraine flared, so intense it felt like her brain was cracking, but the pain wasn't nearly as terrifying as the realization that came with it. They were trapped in the void.